Power Panel, MSNBC contributor Jonathan Capehart, also an opinion writer for The Washington Post, Democratic strategist Margie Omero, and Republican strategist Chip Saltzman. It's great to see all three of you. Jonathan, I want to start with you because the president is facing a very different landscape in the Middle East on this visit compared to '09. The Arab Spring toppled regimes and left behind a vastly altered Middle East. How fine of a line is the president walking between the old challenges and this new uncertainty that exists?
That's a very good question. You know, President going to Israel for the first time as president. He's been there before, and it's changed so much, as you just said, from when he went to Cairo. Whole new challenges, whole new circumstances that he has to deal with. A tattered relationship with the Israeli Prime Minister, and also a lot of people in the region, in Israel and across the region, wondering what is the United States doing? What role is it going to take in this new landscape? And hopefully, you know, I think from the Israelis' point of view, and in the other countries where the president's going to visit, that they'll get some clue as to how committed the United States is to the stability in the region.
Margie, while we talk about this historic trip the president is about to embark on here at home, we are memorializing the 10-year anniversary of the beginning of the Iraq War. And as we look at the human toll, 4,500 American troops killed, over 32,000 Americans wounded in action there, 130,000 Iraqi civilians killed, in the material toll, 806 billion spent on war ops and 60 billion in reconstruction, 15 million in the average just spent per day by the American taxpayer. And just today, 50 people were killed in car bombings in the capital of Baghdad. As we look back, Margie, what lessons have we learned as a people from the toll of what that war has meant?
I mean, those are some staggering numbers, Thomas, and it's not a surprise that you see both Americans for a long time, according to Gallup now for years, a majority have said that this was a mistake. If you look at surveys among Iraqis, you see that while they feel their security has improved, they also feel their economic condition has worsened, and more say corruption and other kinds of instability are more worse than better. And I think the lesson going forward is being very careful about how we enter these kinds of engagements around the world, not just the reason behind them, but also the execution. And I think both of those pieces, when you look at the total cost in terms of financial cost, in Iraq, 70% of those killed are civilians. I mean, these numbers are really tragic, and I think they give us a lot to think about when we think about the entire region and conflicts around the world.
Chip, when we look at the American people, though, as a whole, there's this new ABC News Washington Post poll asking Americans if the Iraq War was worth fighting. Just 38% said yes, 58% said no. A Republican administration, we all know, led the campaign to get us into that war. Does political fallout still linger for the GOP from this?
Yeah, when you lose so much blood and treasure, I mean, these are the questions you ask. And the war that we started 10 years ago is probably not the war that we finished. And when we have those in real numbers, when you talk about the money we've spent, and more importantly, the lives we've lost and the lives we've affected, it's a very tough issue for the GOP. I asked my brother, who spent 28 years of his life defending our country, was it worth it? And he said, we took out a very bad man in Saddam Hussein. We don't know what that would have done if we didn't do that. And he thought it was worth it. And so I always ask that to the military people, what do you think? Because they're the ones that laid down their lives, and they think it was worth it.
All right, so 58% say no, but Jonathan, as we look at the numbers compared to what we saw 10 years ago in 2003, more than 70% they supported the war at the time. Also in 2003, more than 40% said that it was necessary to find weapons of mass destruction. What we all believed as a country was there. And then former Bush speechwriter David Frum wrote in the Daily Beast this week, if the war achieves some positive gains, its unnecessary costs in human life, in money, to the prestige and credibility of the U.S. government are daunting and dismaying. If we'd found the WMD, it would have been different. It totally would have been different, but we didn't. Are the American people more likely to question the challenge of this country being capable and on a proper premise to go into war?
Absolutely. I mean, those poll numbers that you cited way back when, 10 years ago, were reflective of what the American people were told by its government, by its president, its Secretary of State, its Secretary of Defense. The case was made for going to war with Iraq, and, you know, at a time of war, the American people rally around the president. But as more information came out, as more facts and corrections of the record came out, the American people saw that they were, in essence, lied to about getting into a war, not one of necessity, but one of choice. And so I think going forward, particularly with the saber rattling with Iran and what's being talked about with North Korea and its belligerents, the American people are going to be very cautious, or I should say more cautious than they were in 2003 about supporting another war being waged by the United States.
Our power panel today, Jonathan Capehart, Margie Omero, Chip Saltzman. Thank you all. I appreciate it, and I want to encourage you all to